Hi everyone, we're going to go ahead and set up the quarantine tank. I'm going to be using Dr. Tim's one and only to do a quick cycling of it. I'm going to do a fishless cycle. He does recommend that you use glass beads in the bottom. I know a lot of the quarantine tanks are bare bottom, but because of the one and only bacteria, I need something to adhere to. I did buy a foam air filter off Amazon, and I threw in some 2-inch elbows for the fish. I will be setting up a heater and an air pump to go with it. So let's get started and make some water. Here we are back at the water station with the RODI system. So we're going to go ahead and start the flow of the water by opening up this valve and turning on the booster pump. Okay. We got water going to be starting here any second. And what I have done is I've marked at 5 gallons the little hash marks on here so I can get an idea how much water I'm using as it goes, just in case I don't need a full cycle. Okay, we got the water started. I'm going to go ahead and let this run until the float valve shuts it off. And then I'll come over and transfer it to the saltwater side and start mixing the salt water. While the water's pumping or creating, whatever you want to call it, I'm just going to go over. It's got some glass beads from the local pet store, aquarium store, and probably about 10 bags here. So these can be cleaned afterwards and reused, so they're good for quarantine tanks. I also got some 2-inch PVC elbows, 90-degree elbows, 2 of those, something for the fish to hide so they don't get stressed out while they're in quarantine. In addition to that, just a foam air pump filter. The foam acts as the filter and it can be thrown away afterwards if there turns out to be any unwanted pests or anything like that during quarantine, or any illnesses with the fish, any ick, things like that. You can basically replace these. They're pretty cheap. I think $10 each on Amazon. Okay. In addition, the aquarium came with some LED lighting I'll be using. I'm actually in a room that has no windows. It's a unused vanity type for the bathroom, Jack and Jill bathroom. So it'd be perfect for controlling the amount of light there is. We'll have these on a timer. There's an air pump here I'll be using. Also just got a small heater here to keep it the water set to the right temperature. So I'm just going to toss this in here for now. I'll set it on the back and get that going. But as soon as we get the water in. For the Dr. Tim's one and only, I'll be putting in about half of this. This is actually good for up to 60 gallons. This is a 10-gallon tank. So I'll be using some of that for this tank. I also bought some for the main tank. In addition to my regular test kit, I bought an ammonia test kit, and one that does pH and nitrites. This actually does nitrates as well, calcium, what else does? Carbonate, in general, calcium, the hardness of the water. But I basically want the pH and the nitrite just for getting the quarantine tank up and running, and the ammonia. So those would be the 3 things I'll be testing for. Now that the water's all the way up, the float valve closes and the pressure goes to the breaker, the pressure sensor, and turns off, comes over here and turns off the pump. Okay, so now I'm going to turn off the flow down here and transfer to the saltwater tank. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up this valve, and that has it coming up here and over here to here. So I'll go ahead and turn on the pump and put a little switch on here. Now we're transferring the water from the freshwater side to the saltwater side. Once that fills up, then I will mix the salt and then keep it running to mix it. This is the salt that came with the BioCube Deluxe kit I got. It's Accuracy 1 salt. Each of these small bags is good for 4.5 gallons. I have 20-gallon tanks here, so I'm going to go ahead and put 4 of these in and then take a reading on the salt readings to see if how do I need to adjust it. Okay. Now that I've poured that in, I'll go ahead and turn on the pump. I'm going to have to change these valves, close this one back up, and I need to open this one so that I get a continuous cycle. But I'm going to go ahead and just run this and go ahead and add the other salt off camera, as it's a little noisy and it's hard to do with one hand, and I'll get right back to you. I have all the salt mixed in. You can see it's a little cloudy. It's going to agitate for a while. I also have a heater in here I'm going to use to keep the water warm, and as soon as it clears up, I'll take the alkalinity readings, and if everything's good, I'll get it in the tank. Now I'll only be using half of this. It's 20 gallons. I'll be putting it in the quarantine tanks on 10 gallons. This has been going for about 2 hours now. I just want to see the sample of the water with this hydrometer. Never used one of these before, but should give us an idea where we're at. Let me put it up here on the shelf. You can see it's kind of right about 1.024 in between 1.025, so it's a little lower than I'd like to see it. But let's go ahead and keep it mixing. I'm going to go ahead and leave it overnight, and then in the morning I can adjust it accordingly. Okay, it's next morning. Let me turn off the pump, and let's check the salt level here. Got our hydrometer. Put it in there. The reason I'm putting it up on the shelf is because it's the only level surface I have here. I did add a little bit of salt last night, which really kicked it up quite a bit. So I'm going to add some more water to this and try to bring it back down. I made some adjustments to the water, and let's try it one more time. Okay. I'm getting to some discrepancies here. This is showing it about 1.29, which is way high. But putting it in the refractometer, I'm getting about 1.24. So I'm not sure why there's a difference. So I'm going to go with the refractometer and add a little bit of salt to the water. Get it, I want it closer to 1.026. Okay, now I've added a little salt. I'll try this one more time. A lot of little minor adjustments being done to this as we go. And we're right below 1.026, above 1.025, exactly where I want it. So I'm going to go with that. So the next thing we're going to do is put 5 gallons of water, total 10 gallons, and move them into the other room. Okay, so really all we do is close this valve. If I turn it the right way, and open this one. Until we get 5 gallons. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off and come back when it's full. Okay, I got the 2 buckets here. Approximately 10 gallons, probably a little less, but we'll go ahead and get those in. Okay, I got my 10 gallons in. The foam filter has a tendency to want to float, so I'm squeezing some of the air bubbles out of it. It sinks to the bottom. I do want to spread the glass beads around, kind of flush it out. I did wash those thoroughly before putting them in. I rinsed them off really nice. Everything here, actually. Okay, so I'm going to go connect the pump and put the heater in, and then I'll treat it. Okay, here's the quarantine tank setup. It has the heater in there, set to 78 degrees, has the PVC elbows, the pump's going, has the lights that's on a timer system, and we'll be ready to cycle, and that'll be the next video. Thanks.